I translate the root Nun, Sin, Aleph, not Sa, as Aufheben, as sublation. Aufheben is the secret root and understanding of the entire Hegelian opus and dialectics. If you understand the word Aufheben, you understand everything about dialectics and a dialectical approach, the whole Hegelian understanding. Strangely enough, this makes Hegel an interpreter of the Jewish opus, and may even have received his understanding from the Jewish opus. Judaism is only about Aufheben. Aufheben takes one state, negates that state, and then lifts it up into a second state, which can be called the third state. So it takes its initial positing, it negates that positing, and then lifts it up into a new thing. That new thing is really inherent in the original thing, but it has to be negated first. The characteristics of the first entity must be canceled, lessened, removed, negated, in order for the process to take place. This is most evident in the concept of Nisuin. Nisuin after a Kedushin. Kedushin is the separation, and then there's somewhat of a negation, a gap. We're going to call that gap, where there's a bittul, a waiting period, where the Kedushin separates, and then there's a waiting period, and then there's a Nisuin, a lifting up into a new state, a canceling of the previous state, and a lifting up into a new state, even though it's inherent in the original state, in the Kedushin itself. Quite frankly, what I said is too complex. Let's make it easier. Aufheben, Nasa are equal terms. Anytime you lift up an object, you have canceled the place it was, and you've lifted it up to a new domain. This is the root of Judaism. State one, negation in the gap, and then state two. I ran across a phrase the other day in Hasidus, Ben kol shenei yesh ayin. Between all two, there is nothingness. This gap is obvious. It's the same thing even if I hold my hands up. Between these two, there's a nothingness. I don't mean my face, but there's an emptiness between these two. So the one gets posited, then there's an emptiness between the two, and then the two comes about. The highest aspect is the ion that's between the two positings. The ion is the actual force that posits these two extremities. The Aufheben is the principle. The Nasa is the principle. The Shuan is the principle for all growth. The middle term of dialectics of two sides. This is the Jewish way and the Kabbalistic way. Everything has two-ness involved, and the middle term is the one that stirs this. Stirs the two-ness for growth. This is evident in the depiction of the letter Aleph, the Yud on top, the Yud on the bottom, and the Vav in the middle. This Vav in the middle actually is the creative force of Bereshith. She as 6. This middle force is what unites and combines the two sides, the two Yuds of the Aleph. The center becomes higher than the two poles. We know this in the body because the body is that way. The right hand, the left hand, but there's a center hand, the Yad Ramah. There's a center pillar that's equated to the spine. This is the real source of energy, and then gets polaritied out. I'm going to be using the word Aufheben, Aufhebung, in my explication of the Jewish texts, because this completes the negation process. Aufheben is basically negation itself. The process of growth is always in negation, not in the positive, but in the negative. The way to grow is to negate the previous state so it can be lifted up into a new state. Without the bittul of the former state, Aufheben still represents preservation of the former state. Quite frankly, as history, as we proceed up into a future, is a very delicate issue. But I'm going to be using the German word, Aufhebung, Aufheben, to lift up. Especially this year with my study of the tractate Kesuvos. Kesuvos is only about the state of Nisuin, as opposed to the tractate Kedushin, which has to do with Kedushin. There's only one state of marriage, but there's this energy, this action this negation, this middle part. The middle part is actually the ketubah itself. I'll give you these few examples to lead you on to your own private thought. This, my tennis thing of the will to lose. I always say there's a will to lose. You must find that will to lose. Because the will to lose is the will for further growth. You can only win after you have the will to lose. Give up everything. Give up everything for love. It's not tennis love either. Be love's fool. Drop everything and go. The gate, so that one can grow. Enter into the iron, into the bittel, the self, to find the strong aspects of the ani, the true ani. Only through the iron can you find the true ani. How to constantly sublate, aufheben, grow by defeat, enter into the negative space in this positive thinking world. What a beautiful few minutes as a synthesis of my thought. Then call Shani Yesh Ayin. That ayin is the highest aspect that one can attain.